growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of The Lionhearted, where Dr. Stephen Rasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi everyone, you're tuned into The Lionhearted Dentist with Dr. Steve Rasner. So here we are, now in unthinkable week 5 of the pandemic situation around the globe. And I got to tell you, there is so much information overload and misinformation on social media that I am almost more reluctant than ever to even give you my views. So please remember, when I talk to you, you're getting one colleague's opinion on what he's doing to get through this. And all I can give you is my truth. It is exactly what I'm doing. And I'm not going to know for sure if it works until the smoke clears. I'm not going to know. But I got to be honest, if I was you, I would trust me. I mean, I've navigated through a lot of foxholes, or landmines, I should say, in my 40-year career. And I do think I have good instincts. So just keep it in perspective. It's one colleague, and some of the things I could tell you may not pan out. And I also think it's important more than ever for me to stick to script, and which is hard for me to do, as you know, if you listen to me. This is where we're at. Those of you in the United States know that states are either beginning to open up in the end of April or the beginning of May, or there's certainly more and more states talking about that, which includes the practice of dentistry. So I know that when I hear that, the very first thing I think of is, okay, then am I ready with my PPEs? What do I need? What do I don't need? So please, I know I just said it. Don't forget, this is my opinion. So I've been on the phone making a lot of calls, and I have done a little bit prior to this, but I've waited till now because I'm in the state of New Jersey, which I don't know how they're going to handle New Jersey, because those of you not familiar, parts of New Jersey are right adjacent to New York City, and that is where the bulk of the 100,000 corona cases are. I am in South Jersey, 2.5 hours away, and I'm hoping they separate us like two separate states. I'm not sure what they're going to do. But the very fact that any states are starting to open up is making me start to say, okay, am I prepared? So like you, I go online. I look on social media. I look on Facebook. I Google things. So let me tell you what I'm not doing. I know a lot of different suppliers in dentistry, partly because I've been a dentist for 40 years, and partly because I've been a speaker and been exposed to many different businesses connected with our industry that I wouldn't have been exposed to had I not been at a convention or a speaker at some kind of conference. And I've heard everything. I've had somebody call me, okay, let me tell you. Somebody called me that I know very well and asked me if I was interested in redesigning the ventilation system in my operatories at a clip of 30 grand per operatory. Are you out of your crazy mind? Of course I'm not doing that. I'm just showing you the range of things that we're all being exposed to. And then, of course, on social media, you know, do you buy a filtration system that is, I've heard, like $5,000 an operatory to $500 an operatory? Here's what I really think. I think most of what you do, don't send me any hate mail for this, because you're tuned in because you like some of the other things I've said. Because I think a lot of it's going to be visual for your patient. Unless you go to a medical state-of-art filtration system, I don't know if you have enough time, or myself, to dissect the different recommendations that are out there for us to see what's really effective. So if you're going to do that, I would proceed with caution. I'm not buying any yet. I'm being honest. And when I do, I believe it'll be a moderate price. But I do believe the visual to the patients coming back to us from the first phone call they get to literally what happens as they enter your office via a phone call in the parking lot, that it's good to come in. And I said this at an earlier podcast in the last month. The one time I've come in during this time, we took their temperature. We asked them the standard questions. Are they aware they've been exposed to anybody with coronavirus? Have they practiced social distancing, etc.? We took their temperature. We had gloves and a mask for them. I don't know if this is overkill. I'm telling you what I did. That certainly doesn't break the bank. And then we walked them back into an operatory that was prepared. Now, I don't know how much I'm going to expand from that in preparation for this. And that's not what the focus of this podcast is about, because you can go online, just either write to me if you want to know what I'm doing, but don't make any rash decisions. I'll give you an example. So I purchased masks yesterday. The range, I'm not kidding you, I couldn't find any. So I reached out to my connections, and sure enough, one of them worked. One of my connections was connected to a small hospital branch. And I was thrilled because I called the guy who took my call as a favor to the person at the hospital who recommended me as a new buyer from him. And I was all excited because he had just about everything I wanted. And the price was $9 a mask. I'm not doing that. So long story short is I had my staff, not when I say staff, one staff member who's on unemployment. I'm trying to keep it real with you today. So you will, well, is she getting paid for that? Is she not getting paid for that? I enlisted the help of my staff. Those that wanted to do it, of course, was optional. I put it out there that I could use some extra help in various stages of what we're doing right now. So what I'm talking about is, what am I going to do in preparation physically with PPEs going back into the office? And I'm going to pretty much do what I did the one day I came in, which is I've gowned with a disposable gown. I did have a couple N95 masks. I covered that with an additional mask. No, the 95 mask was not custom fitted for $40, nor am I going to do that for every employee. I'm not. I've heard from dentists that I have a lot of respect for. You might like this little pearl I'm going to give you. That what some guys do is they give an N95 mask for each day of the week, and you cover that mask with a disposable mask. And at the end of the day, you put it aside, and then you rotate it every 4 days, since the evidence seems to suggest that this organism doesn't live beyond 3 days. And that may even be contestable for all I know. But that's what I'm doing. I'm not buying hazmat suits. And how much more we will go beyond the protocol I told you about with the patients in the parking lot, whether I end up getting air infiltration systems of any sort, I'm not sure. Now, as I speak to you today, as far as I know, dentists are not permitted to give the corona test or the blood test. That may change tomorrow, I hope, because I'll probably be all over that, testing my patients, if they have it actively. And look, we are evolving, guys. This is beginning to become, we're making progress, because we couldn't even have this discussion my first podcast regarding this 5 weeks ago. So yeah, states are starting to open up. There's tests available where you can now find out in 5 or 10 minutes if they have it actively. And now, as we both know, there's blood-borne test to know if you have the antibodies. And I expect it to evolve even beyond that as I speak to you today. That's what I'm counting on. I mean, I see stuff online that just blows my mind. With full disclosure, some of these doctors I'm seeing photographs of are in other countries. If that's what it takes that I have to wear a spacesuit, it's hard for me to say this to you, but I'm probably out if that's what it's going to be. So here's my takeaway, and I'm trying to keep these shorter for you, because you're probably looking at so much like I am as well. I want it to be meaningful. The takeaway from this week is I think it's time to start to prepare in some way. So you do have to have some semblance of PPEs. You can't just have nothing. Although I know dentists that have been practicing emergencies all along that don't even have the N95 mask. They have what they had before. And they're gowning and they're covering their hair and they're closing themselves off pretty fully. And these aren't like cowboys I'm talking about. They're guys, some of these guys you would know of. So look, it's to each of us our responsibility to decide how to attack this. And I'm trying to give you somebody that you listen to's opinion. I think you get it. I think you hear me tell you loud and clear. I am not going to go full out and buy cases and thousands of dollars of N95 mask. I ended up purchasing 60 to start. Now, I have 15 clinical employees, of which I don't even know if I can bring them all back day one, but I counted on that. And so 15 times 4 days a week, which I don't know if we're going to work 4 days, is 60 masks. And I started out with 60. I do have some other orders in the fire that I'm thinking about. Face shields, booties, disposable gowns, thermometers. That's my basic investment. It is not a bank breaker. One more thing I want to tell you before I end the podcast for the week, and that is that this is important. This is the first time I've done this. We are in the last week of April, the end of the third week of April, actually. We, for the first time, made calls to patients that we started to reschedule them with the assumption of June 1st. I have no evidence of that, by the way. Up to now, I have not attempted to reschedule anyone. So I went in with another staff member that's been working part-time, on her own, by the way, and she made calls to the patients, and we were very successful. Now, I want to point out something. The first people that we went after, I have a practice that gets paid up front for its work. So you can imagine the compromise for me with patients from, what's it now, 6 weeks ago, that had paid us for services that were supposed to be delivered during the past 6 weeks. I mean, they could have all canceled, and I would understand that. And they still might end up doing that. And it amounts to substantial revenue. It does. But we called them first, and we filtered some of them in each day. Of course I'm going to do that. I'm trying to survive. These patients have been loyal and generous enough and understanding enough to stick with us and reschedule their appointments. Prior to now, we've just stayed in touch with them, like, we're going to eventually have a date or recall you, but for now we're just saying hi, hope you're hanging in there, hope you're doing fine. They are calls that we did make, and we were very successful with that. I haven't said anything like this week, but if you want the verbiage for exactly what Michelle said. So let me just bring you up to date. Lots of you have requested when I made offers like this. I'm going to give you one more time at my email, which is drrasner@aol.com. The verbiage that Beth has been sending out for me is the initial letter that I sent to my patients when this started. If you haven't done anything, I don't think it's too late. Something's better than nothing. 2, a follow-up letter that I sent out about just a couple weeks ago. That's 2. 3, a letter that I sent to my team, trying to encourage them, trying to keep them inspired. I did do that. A 4th thing I did this week is not my idea. I did, in fact, get it from social media, and it was pretty cool. And what we did is we took pictures. You probably have seen this at home, each of us. And now in my case, it's pretty easy because I have 18 staff members. If you have 3, then you'll have to have multiple photos of yourself giving a message. And the message was, we miss our patients. We pray you're safe. Practice safety, safe distancing, or our hearts are with you, whatever you want to say. And we mailed them all to one of my staff members, who then put it on Facebook for social media. So if you can picture like a Zoom photograph of all my different employees holding up one letter of the message. I think it's a nice thing. I don't know where that originally came from, but I certainly borrowed it. So I hope these things helped you this week. Please stay tuned and reach out to me. My name and my email, Dr. Rasner at AOL, and I'll send you even the details on that, including, if you want the precise verbiage of what we said this week when we first went to reschedule. Hang in there, guys. We're going to be okay. We're going to take some bumps. See you next week.